My Playful Wife, Episode 7, The Rose Silk, written by Mia. She wore it on a Tuesday. Not a special Tuesday. Not one that had been announced or circled or given any particular weight in the calendar. I came home from work at the usual time, 6:30, the city in its evening state, the commute unremarkable, and I did the usual things. Key in the lock, shoes off, bag on the floor. The small decompression ritual of a man re-entering his domestic life. And then I looked up. She was in the living room, standing at the window with the curtains open, looking out at the city in the last light. She had not heard me come in, or she had heard and was choosing not to turn yet, letting me arrive at the scene on my own. The blouse was finished. I stood in the doorway between the hall and the living room, and I did not move, and I looked at my wife. The dark rose silk caught the last of the evening light differently than any fabric I had seen her wear. She had been right in the market. When she'd said it held light rather than reflected it, there was a quality to it, against her skin, of something that had absorbed warmth over time and was now giving it back. The cut was exactly as she had sketched it, structured across the shoulders, falling to a clean line at the hip, and in the back, almost nothing. 2 fine straps crossing between her shoulder blades, the rest of her back bare, the curve of her spine visible, the particular beauty of a back that has not often been looked at. Her hair was up, pinned away. She was wearing a plain dark skirt with it. Nothing that competed, nothing that distracted. The silk was doing what it needed to do. Everything else had simply cleared the way. I stood there for what was probably 30 seconds and what felt like longer, and I thought about many things simultaneously. The sketch on the bedside table, the 6 weeks of hearing her in the workroom, the pale rose silk being bought in the market with Piyush beside her, the whole long history of this single piece of fabric from its beginning to this moment. And underneath all of those thoughts, going steadily, like a current below a surface, my wife was extraordinary. I had always known this. I was only now fully feeling it. "You're home," she said. She had felt me, perhaps the change in the room's atmosphere, perhaps just the knowledge of me that had accumulated over 3 years. "Yes," I said.
She turned then.
She turned and faced me, and she didn't perform it. Didn't check my face for the response. Didn't adjust herself to meet my reaction. She simply turned and was. "Well," she said. I stopped. The word I had reached for was inadequate. I tried again. "It's extraordinary." She received this without false modesty and without particular pride, with the equanimity of someone who has made something she fully believes in and has already made her peace with the fact of it.
"Come in," she said.
"Don't stand in the doorway." I came in. She made dinner in it. This was the thing I had not anticipated, that she would cook in the blouse, that she would carry it into the kitchen and stand at the stove in it, moving with the same ease she brought to everything. The rose silk at the cooker, the back strap catching the fluorescent light differently than it had caught the evening gold, the fabric shifting with her when she reached for the pan. She moved in it with no particular awareness of it. This is the thing about Saloni and the things she made. She wore them as though they had always been hers, as though the garment had simply been waiting to become itself on her body and had arrived, with the blouse, at its right form. There was none of the self-consciousness of someone wearing something new. She was simply in it. I sat at the table and watched her cook. The dal was the long kind, the kind that announced itself through the whole flat and required time and could not be hurried. She moved from the stove to the counter and back, each movement followed by the fall of the silk, each rotation of her body showing me the back, the straps, the bare skin, the architecture of what she had made.
I watched.
I didn't look away. This was the choice I had been practicing, to receive what I saw without flinching from it, to sit with the full experience of my own life rather than managing it from a safe distance. It cost me something. It always cost something. But the cost was different now from what it had been in October. It was not only grief. It was a broader feeling, the feeling of being present in something large and true. She turned and caught me watching. She met my gaze and held it for a moment. There was something in her expression that I had not seen before, a question being asked, not with words, about what she was seeing in my face, whether what was there was what she hoped. She went back to the dowel. Before she served, she stood at the counter for a moment with her back to me. I could see in the line of her shoulders that she was gathering something, deciding. She turned. "I want to ask you something," she said. "Ask," I said. "When you see me like this," she gestured slightly, vague, meaning the silk and everything it represented. "Does it make you feel less? Is there less of me for you?" I looked at her, at the rose silk, at her face, which had the specific openness of someone who has decided to be vulnerable. "No," I said. "You're more. You're the most you I've ever seen." She stood there, receiving this. "Okay," she said, quietly. We ate at the kitchen table. 2 plates, the dal, rice, some quick pickles she had made while I was not paying attention. She sat across from me in the rose silk and we talked, and the conversation was the ordinary evening conversation of a married couple. Work, a neighbor who had been making noise, a thing her sister had said on the phone, a problem at my office that I was not interested in discussing but mentioned anyway because it was there. The normal traffic of 2 lives running in parallel. And all the while the silk was there, moving slightly when she moved, catching the light from the overhead bulb in its specific dark warm way. "The silk," I said at some point in the meal. "What about it?" "Piyush sees it this weekend." She looked up. She met my eyes directly, the full clear gaze, nothing between us. "Yes," she said, simply, without apology, without hedging, without the small defensive architecture that people build around the truth when they're afraid of it. Just yes. I nodded. She waited. "Does it fit?" I said, "the way you wanted it to?" She understood what I was actually asking. She understood that I was asking about more than the garment, about the whole project of it, about what she had made it for, and whether the making had produced the thing she intended. She put down her fork. "Yes," she said again, and then, very quietly, "I made it to fit exactly." Those words, "I made it to fit exactly," landed in the room with a weight that was more than the words. They described the silk. They also described the conversation we were having, the arrangement we were in, the specific precision of a woman who did not make things accidentally. She had made everything to fit exactly. The silk, the arrangement, the way she held both parts of her life with the same hands, the careful balance she had been maintaining since before I'd known any of it existed. I picked up my fork. "Good," I said. Piyush arrived on Saturday. The door opened, and he stood in the hallway with his bag and the usual Friday evening ease of someone who has been on a train and is glad to be arrived, and he saw Saloni. He stopped. She was in the doorway in the rose silk, light from the flat behind her, her hair down this time. She had made this choice, I noted, the deliberateness of it, and the blouse in this light was different again from the evening light of Tuesday. More saturated, the rose darker. He stood in the hallway and he stopped. Completely stopped. The way a person stops when the body has registered something before the mind catches up. And his face did the thing it did when something came at him that he hadn't prepared for, an unguarded opening, a split second of pure response before the management arrived. She let him look. She was good at this, at receiving attention without either shrinking from it or leaning into it with performance. She stood in the doorway in what she had made, and she let it be looked at, and her expression was warm and private and pleased in the specific way of someone who has done something well and knows it. "Bobby," he said, finding his voice, "you made this."
"Last month," she said. "Come in."
I was in the kitchen, visible from the doorway, close enough that the scene had a witness. She had arranged this deliberately, I was certain of it now, had placed me here the way she placed things in designs, where they needed to be for the whole to function. She wanted me seen. She wanted us all to know that I was here, that I knew that my presence was part of the arrangement rather than a thing it had to be hidden from.
He came in.
His eyes found mine, a flicker, a check, the look of someone confirming that the ground is solid before he steps on it. I raised my chin slightly. He nodded. The whole transaction, half a second. "Dal," she said from the kitchen. "God, yes," he said. The dinner that evening was the best dinner of all the visits. Not the food, though the food was good, but the quality of the gathering. Something had opened in the room, some constriction that had been operating since October, slowly releasing its grip. We were, for the first time, genuinely at ease. All three of us. Not performing ease, not constructing it through careful management, having arrived at it through the slow months of adjustment, at something real. Piyush talked about Bengaluru. The offer had come through properly now, a letter, a number, a decision he was going to have to make. He laid it out on the table the way you lay out something you're trying to see from all sides, and Saloni asked questions, and I asked questions, and he answered them, and it was the conversation of people who cared about the outcome rather than people performing the appearance of caring. The lamp was on. The city outside, cool December, the particular smell of Delhi in winter coming through the slightly open window. Saloni poured chai at some point and brought 3 cups without asking. She sat back on the couch, and Piyush was on the floor again, his back against the couch, and I was in the chair, and her hand moved to his shoulder the way it had moved the visit before, naturally, without announcement. I looked at her hand on his shoulder. I looked at my wife's face, turned toward him, asking him something about the Bengaluru firm, engaged and warm and present, and I looked at my brother's face, tilted up to answer her, his whole body oriented toward the conversation, and I held what I was looking at and let myself hold it. Here is what I actually felt in that moment, if I'm honest about it. I felt love, for both of them. The love I had for my wife, which had been, not damaged by what I knew, but changed, made more true, made out of the full reality of her rather than the simplified version. And the love I had for my brother, which had been through something and come out the other side still intact, which was its own kind of miracle. I also felt the grief. I want to say that too, because it's true. The grief was there, smaller now, but present, the specific loneliness of a man who loves a woman completely and knows that completely and exclusively are not the same thing. I held all of it. The lamp.
The chai.
The rose silk. The 3 of us in the room.
"You should take it," I said.
About Bengaluru.
They both looked at me.
"The job," I said. "If it's the right one, you should take it." Piyush looked at me for a moment, then at Saloni. Something passed between them. Not a look of negotiation, but of shared recognizing, of arriving at the same place from different directions. "Yeah," he said. "I think so too." Saloni looked at me. I held her gaze. After a moment, she smiled, the real one, from the stomach, and looked down at her chai. The lamp stayed on. The city went about its night. Piyush left the next morning. I drove him to the station early. The city not yet fully operational, the roads clear, the light still low and gold. He sat in the passenger seat with his bag between his feet, and we talked about nothing in particular, the way brothers do when what needs to be said has been said, and what remains is just time. At the station, he got out and shouldered his bag. He stood by the car for a moment. "The blouse," he said. "What about it?" "When she wears it." He paused. "You should see it. Really see it. Not just look." I looked at him. "That's what I've been learning," I said. "The difference." He nodded. "I know," he said. "You're getting it." He walked into the station. I sat in the car for a moment after he was gone, the engine running, the morning city starting to fill itself in around me. I thought about what he had said, the difference between looking and seeing, the permission in it, his permission, which I hadn't asked for and perhaps didn't need, but which was given anyway, with the ease of someone who has made his peace with a situation and chooses generosity rather than ownership. I drove home. Saloni was in the kitchen when I came in, still in her night clothes, the workroom not yet started, the morning her own. She had made chai, 1 cup, hers, and she looked up when I came in with the question in her eyes. "He's on his train," I said. She nodded. She looked at her cup. "He said something?" I said. "About what?" "About looking versus seeing," I said. "About the blouse." She was very still. "He said I should really see it," I said. "When you wear it, not just look." She raised her eyes to mine. "Will you?" she said. "Yes," I said. "I already am. I've been practicing." She held my gaze. Then she picked up her cup. "There's chai in the pot," she said. "It's still warm." I poured a cup and sat at the table across from her, and we drank our morning chai in the quiet flat, and the city went about its December day, and the rose silk waited in the workroom to become what it was becoming. I was learning, not finished, not arrived, but learning. The difference was everything. She wore the rose silk one more time that month. Not for Piyush, he was already in Bengaluru by then. Not for anyone. She wore it on a Saturday morning when she was alone in the flat with her work, when I had gone to the gym and come back to find her in the workroom, the silk on, bent over the table. She hadn't heard me come in. I stood in the workroom doorway and watched her work. The silk moved when she moved. The back straps, the bare skin between them, the quality of the fabric in the workroom's ordinary light. She was making notes in her sketchbook, very fast, the ideas arriving faster than the hand. She felt me there and looked up. She was not startled. She was just herself, in the silk, in her work scene. "Good session," she said. "Yes," I said. She looked at me for a moment. Something in her face, not self-conscious, but aware of how she was, of what I was seeing. "The silk," I said. "Yes." "You look like the collection," I said. "You look like the title." She understood. Distance. Something that looks like it's closing and is actually opening. "Yes," she said. "I think I do." I thought about that, the most you I've ever seen, for a long time afterward, about what it meant that seeing her fully, all of her, had produced not diminishment, but expansion. That the complicated truth of someone you love does not make them less. That it makes them more real, more specific, more completely the person you chose. I was beginning to understand that this was the whole of it. This was what love was when it stopped being comfortable and started being true. To be continued in episode 8, What a Man Learns.
Simbolo di copyright Mia.
All rights reserved. That was episode 7 of My Playful Wife. If this story is staying with you, the next episode is already waiting. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The complete book is on Amazon, and early episodes plus bonus chapters are on my Patreon. Links are in the description.
I'm Mia.
Thank you for listening.